The world is divided into two types of people: those who love Formula One and those who don't understand it. But in the middle, there are those who enjoy watching it, even if they don't fully understand its rules and strategies, or what makes some drivers better than others. If you've just gotten hooked on Formula One, but there are still things that confuse you, or if you have a friend, partner, or family member who asks you every 2 minutes what's happening in the race, this is the perfect video for you. And if you think you already know everything about Formula One, stay until the end, because you'll surely discover something you didn't know.
Farina was the first one.
In this video, I'll cover everything you need to know, from basic rules to complex details, so you can understand this sport like a true expert. And for this special occasion, 3 well-known content creators have joined me to help explain some of the topics we'll be covering. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is Formula One and why is it so special? Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport. It's the world's most prestigious and demanding category where top drivers race the fastest, most advanced cars. Formula One is more than speed. It's about strategy, technology, and extreme precision. And although it's a sport, it's also a spectacle. Plus, there's something we should never forget. Formula One is still dangerous, and even though the advances in safety have been enormous, drivers still risk their lives in every race.
You see the sky, the ground, and know where you are as you keep moving, want to stop. Then the car stopped, I saw a small space and said, I'll get out quickly.
Now, it's the top category of motorsport. But why is it called Formula One? The name derives from formula, meaning the regulations all cars must follow. And the one indicates that it's the top category, the number one in this sport. That being said, what makes Formula One so different from other competitions? To begin with, Formula One cars are single-seaters designed for just one driver, unlike other competitions. In addition, they have no roof or fenders, which makes them lighter and faster. Another big difference is that each team designs its own car instead of using standard models like in other categories. And of course, it's the most technologically advanced category, with cars that exceed 350 kilometers per hour and generate G-forces that would challenge even fighter pilots. In short, it's the perfect combination of engineering, talent, and spectacle. Knowing what Formula One is isn't enough. Understanding how it works is most important. Formula One is made up of drivers, cars, and teams competing together. It's a close battle, and today they've combined key results. Champagne for Esteban.
Ocon scores 18 points and Pierre Gasly 15, totaling 33 points for Alpine. See how they celebrate like it's the World Championship. Well deserved.
How can someone who finished third celebrate like they won the World Championship? My friend, this guy's on the podium. Well, in Formula One, winning a race is important. But what really matters is the total points throughout the season. Every position matters, and second or third place can be crucial for the championship. Each season features a race calendar of Grand Prix held in various countries. Drivers earn points based on their position in each race, and the one with the most points at year's end becomes world champion. But how are the points awarded? This and how the sprint race format works will be explained to us by our first guest of the video, Skyline Racing, in just a few moments. I'll just say the top 3 go to the podium to celebrate their victory. You've likely seen this. Each gets a trophy and celebrates with champagne.
Charles Leclerc will be exposed to tonight. These are celebrations that are going to go on.
But before we continue, there's something you need to know to really understand how Formula One works. In this, 10 teams compete and each team has 2 drivers, which means 20 cars race in each event. Each driver competes to achieve the best possible result. But at the same time, each team needs both drivers to score points for the Constructors' Championship. This means there are 2 ways to stand out in Formula One: as a driver or as a team. That's why each Formula One season has 2 champions. On one hand, there's the Drivers' Championship, which is won by the driver who scores the most points at the end of the season. And on the other hand, there's the Constructors' Championship, which is won by the team that accumulates the most points. Summing the results of both drivers, this system can create situations where a team wins the Constructors' Championship but doesn't have the driver's champion. A clear example happened in 2024 with McLaren and Red Bull. McLaren won the Constructors' Championship because their two drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, scored more points in total.
Lando Norris wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. McLaren are the 2024 champions.
But the driver's champion was Max Verstappen from Red Bull, who individually outperformed everyone in the standings.
It's a bit harder than last year, but we did it and gave it our all. Thank you so much, guys.
This shows that the best driver of the season doesn't always race for the best team. Sometimes competing for the constructors and drivers titles causes conflicts within teams. And this is where Formula One gets really interesting. A driver always wants to win, but a team has to think about what's best for the Constructors' Championship. This can lead to strategic decisions that benefit the team, but harm a particular driver.
Has he been told not to put pressure on you?
Is the message in Spanish? This is where team radios come into play. The messages that engineers send to drivers during the race. If you've ever watched a Formula One race, you've probably heard something like this.
It's James. You need to let Lewis by.
Let Michael through for the championship. Let Michael through for the championship, Ben Strott.
These kinds of messages are called team orders. Teams can give these strategic instructions to their drivers, but that doesn't mean they always obey them. Some drivers accept the orders without a problem. Hey,
Do you want a different strategy than Max? If he's faster, we'll let him pass.
It's unfair, but oh well.
while others simply ignore them. Max.
Max, let's check it as we pass by. Max, let's check as we go.
However, team radios are not only used to give orders, they're also a key tool for strategy, communication about the car's condition, and many other decisions during the race. We'll talk about this in detail later in the video. But at the end of the day, why are teams so focused on the Constructors' Championship? Although the driver's title is the most recognized for the teams, the Constructors' Championship is what really matters. Why? Because that's the one that distributes the money. Formula One generates billions of dollars a year, and most of that revenue is distributed among the teams according to their position in the Constructors' Championship. The higher they finish, the more money they get for next season, allowing greater investment in a better car and improving future winning chances. Ultimately, the car largely determines what a driver can aim for during a race and what a team can achieve throughout the season. A good car wins races, while a bad one needs luck just to finish in the top 10. That's why, although the Drivers' Championship is most remembered for glory, the Constructors' Championship is actually more important because it directly impacts how much money each team earns. But here's an important question. Who makes sure all of this works? The answer is that Formula One is overseen by two entities: the International Automobile Federation, which is responsible for the sporting and technical rules, such as safety and penalties, and Liberty Media, the American company that owns the commercial rights to Formula One and manages its business, including contracts, broadcasts, and advertising agreements. Although they're meant to work together, conflicts of interest sometimes arise between them. The International Automobile Federation wants Formula One to be fair and safe, while Liberty Media wants it to be a profitable spectacle. And before we get into the races themselves, our friend Skyline Racing will explain how a Grand Prix weekend works. But first, if you're finding this video helpful,
subscribe. Welcome. Now it's time for my part in this special video, where I'm going to explain how a Formula One Grand Prix weekend works. Well, Grand Prix weekends span 3 days, typically Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with each race following the same structure. However, since sprint races were introduced in 2021, the format changes a bit compared to the traditional model, but I'll explain these details in depth later on. The on-track activity in a traditional weekend starts on Fridays, or at some circuits like Las Vegas on Thursdays, with 2 free practice sessions commonly referred to as Free Practice 1 and Free Practice 2, which are the initial training sessions. Here, teams and drivers collect crucial data on car performance and track conditions. They fine-tune the car's settings for peak performance in qualifying and the race, and more. If we look at Friday, Practice 1 is mainly focused on the drivers and cars adapting to the track. Similar to how engineers collect major data for an efficient car setup, Practice 2 usually focuses more on race simulation. That is, The teams start testing the car's behavior with a heavy fuel load, measuring constant tire wear, fuel consumption, and the car's performance in these setups. Although qualifying simulation is also usually done because practice 2 is normally held at the same time as qualifying, and both practice sessions last a total of 1 hour. The third and final practice session is held Saturday morning. In this session, teams and drivers usually focus on fine-tuning the final details for qualifying and the race. In this 60-minute session, teams typically run fast lap simulations to get ready for qualifying and set the best time. And a few hours later, the qualifying session begins, which determines the starting order of the drivers for Sunday's race. This is split into 3 knockout rounds, qualifying 1, 2, and 3. In qualifying 1, all 20 drivers have 18 minutes to set their fastest time. At the end of this round, the 5 slowest drivers are eliminated and take grid positions 16th to 20th. Qualifying 2 repeats the same dynamic, but only with the 15 best times from the previous session, and in this case, the session duration is reduced to 15 minutes. And once again, the 5 drivers with the slowest times are eliminated, and they will occupy positions 11 to 15 respectively. And the 10 fastest drivers compete in qualifying 3, which only lasts 12 minutes, where the goal is to be the fastest and get the pole position, that is the first place on the starting grid. The others will occupy 2nd to 10th place according to their qualifying time, and once the order is determined, the race begins. The main race covers about 305 kilometers or lasts up to 2 hours. This will determine the number of laps based on each circuit's length. Some circuits have longer distances, while others like Monaco are under 305 kilometers. The number of laps in Grand Prix races varies based on track length. A 4-kilometer track has different laps than a 7-kilometer one. The drivers, for their part, will start the race in the order established the day before during qualifying, and the top 10 positions will earn points. In addition, the Formula 1 regulations require drivers and teams to change their tire compound at least once during the race. And they can't use the same compound. They have to use at least 2. You can't do the whole race on the hard tire, the medium tire, or the white tire. You have to alternate the use of at least 2 of these tires depending on the strategy you're following at that moment. The only condition where this rule doesn't apply is when rain tires are used. When the track returns to dry conditions, you're no longer required to make a pit stop that forces you to use different types of dry compounds. But if you remember, as I mentioned before, some races have a sprint weekend which works a bit differently. Let's look at sprint format Fridays. There's only one practice session, free practice 1, where the teams have to test as many things as possible during the 60 minutes available. This is a much shorter time than usual. Later that Friday, the sprint shootout qualifying for the sprint race occurs. Here, the traditional qualifying model with 3 sessions is used, but each session is shorter. And in qualifying 1, qualifying 2, and qualifying 3, a specific type of tire is required that can only be used during that session. Usually, qualifying 1 and 2 use medium tires, while qualifying 3 uses soft tires. The duration is, qualifying 1 lasts just 12 minutes, qualifying 2 lasts 10 minutes, and qualifying 3 lasts 8 minutes. On Saturday morning, the sprint race takes place, a 100-kilometer competition with the starting order set by the shootout session. And this time, only the top 8 drivers who finish this race earn points for the Drivers' Championship. On that same day, but later on, the official qualifying for the Grand Prix takes place in its traditional format. Qualifying 1, 2, and 3 run as usual to set Sunday's starting order, with the main race also held that day, just like traditional weekends. For 2025, the weekends. Sprint will take place in China, Miami, Belgium, Austin, Sao Paulo, and Qatar. With this, my participation ends. I thank Formula 1 Al Cubo for the invitation. And if you want to know a little more about the content from the voice speaking to you, I invite you to follow us on our Skyline Racing YouTube channel. Greetings, enjoy the rest of the video.
Thank you, Skyline. Now let's move on to one of the most important elements of this sport, which on more than one occasion have decided races and even world championships: race strategies. In Formula 1, the fastest car doesn't always win. Strategies play a key role in the outcome of each race, and teams have to make real-time decisions to maximize their chances of success. A well-executed strategy can help a slow car achieve a one-on-one victory.
Pierre Gasly has pitted, so no need to switch sides.
Tell your driver
that this has worked for him.
Oh my God, what did you do? What did you do? You made a mess.
While a miscalculation can ruin a sure victory.
Box now, box for hard tires. Stay out, stay out, stay out. Maddie, box now. No, hold position.
One of the most important factors in a strategy is tire usage. Every weekend, Pirelli, the official tire supplier, selects 3 different compounds from their range. From 6 options, from compound C1 to compound C6, that is, from the hardest to the softest. That's why at the start of the race, you'll see something like this. But what does that mean? First, there are the red tires, which are the soft ones. These offer more grip and allow for faster lap times, but they wear out quickly. Next are the yellow ones, the medium tires, offering a balance of performance and durability. And finally, the hard tires, which are white, last much longer, but offer less grip and speed. In normal dry race conditions, drivers must use at least 2 different compounds. This means they must make at least 1 pit stop, as Skyline mentioned. Also, when the track is wet, dry tires are useless because they can't disperse the water and the car loses grip completely. That's why in rainy conditions, 2 types of special tires are used. On one hand, there are the green ones, which are the intermediate tires used when the track is damp or when it's raining lightly. On the other hand, there are the extreme wet tires, which are the blue ones, designed to evacuate large amounts of water and prevent aquaplaning. But they're slower than the intermediates. Now, if the rain stops and the track starts to dry, continuing with wet tires can be a disaster because they overheat and lose performance quickly. Choosing the right tire at the right time can be the difference between winning a race or getting stuck at the back of the pack. However, tire strategy is not as simple as it seems. This is where degradation comes into play. Tires not only wear out over time, they also lose performance as the rubber heats up and deteriorates. In extreme cases, the tires may burst.
Valtteri Bottas battles Hamilton, but now Bottas has a puncture.
If a driver uses soft tires, he'll be faster in the first laps, but he'll have to pit earlier to change them. On the other hand, if he uses hard tires, he can do longer stints, but he'll have less pace. The key is to find the ideal balance. With this in mind, the teams can choose different strategies, like the undercut or the overcut, to gain positions without having to overtake on track. But what do these terms mean? I'll explain them to you in a simple way. Undercut is when a driver pits before his direct rival, switches to fresh tires, and comes out with more grip and speed. If he sets fast laps while his rival is still on worn tires, he can close the gap and overtake when his rival pits. The overcut is the opposite strategy. In this case, a driver stays on track with worn tires but manages to do fast laps. Since his rival has already pitted, if he makes a good stop, he could exit the pits ahead. Choosing between undercut and overcut depends on how much the tires are degrading and how fast the car is at that point in the race. In addition, there are other strategic factors at play, such as the use of the drag reduction system, fuel management, and the energy recovery system. For his part, the drag reduction system is a mechanism that allows drivers to open a part of the rear wing to reduce air resistance and increase their speed on the straights. This can only be used in specific zones of the circuit and only if the driver is less than 1 second behind the car in front. In qualifying, only the first condition applies. This system was introduced to make overtaking easier. The drag reduction system is a fundamental part of race strategy, as it can help recover positions lost in the pits or take advantage of a successful undercut. Unlike what happened in the past, Formula One cars cannot refuel during the race, which means they have to manage fuel from start to finish. In addition, modern cars have a hybrid system that recovers energy during braking to give an extra boost on the straights. This system, known as the energy recovery system, helps drivers manage their performance at every moment of the race. Teams choose when to recover more or less energy based on strategy. Misusing fuel or energy can leave a driver vulnerable to their rivals at key moments. And now that we know how a Grand Prix weekend works and what happens during a race, we still need to talk about the main characters. Let's start with the teams. A Formula One team is not just a group of mechanics and 2 drivers. Behind each car, there are hundreds of people working to make sure everything goes perfectly, from the track strategy to the development of every part of the single-seater. Every team member plays a crucial role, but besides the main drivers, who are the ones that make all this work? The team principal is the leader of the team and makes the most important decisions, from selecting drivers to choosing suppliers. He manages the relationship with the International Automobile Federation, sponsors, and engineers. Race engineers ensure the car is perfectly tuned. For each session, they analyze real-time data and communicate the necessary changes to the driver over the radio. Each driver has his own race engineer, who is his main point of contact with the team. During the race, the team radios inform him about strategy, pace, and possible setup changes. Sometimes they share moments of excitement. They share other emotions.
They express various emotions.
Or slightly different communications, Tom.
Do you know what that was? That was smooth operator. Smooth operator.
The mechanics are responsible for preparing, repairing, and adjusting the car. Each pit stop is their responsibility. A team of mechanics can change all 4 tires in less than 2 seconds. The current record is 1.8. Soft. Which can be the difference between winning and losing a position. They are also the first to act if the car is damaged during the race or qualifying. They have to work against the clock if a driver crashes, since the car needs to be repaired before the next session. The strategists are the brains behind every decision during the race. They analyze real-time data and decide when to make pit stops, which tires to use, and how to respond to the rivals' moves. If a driver crashes or gets penalized, they are responsible for handling these situations. With a new strategy, the strategists have seconds to make decisions that can change the outcome of the race. Aerodynamicists are the engineers who design every part of a modern Formula One car to optimize aerodynamics. Aerodynamics is everything. Their job includes designing the front and rear wings to generate downforce. They optimize airflow to reduce drag and increase speed on straights, and ensure that the car performs well on different tracks. Small aerodynamic changes can make a difference of tenths of a second per lap, enough to decide a pole position or a victory. Simulator and reserve drivers. While the main drivers are on the track, the simulator drivers work at the factory testing setups and strategies. Teams have advanced simulators that replicate each circuit and race conditions, allowing them to test adjustments before implementing them on the real car. Many of the strategic decisions you see during the race have been previously tested by the simulator drivers. Each team also has a reserve driver ready to replace a main driver if they're ill or injured.
Today we learned he has appendicitis, was hospitalized, and had surgery. He won't participate in the race or qualifying. Today his place is taken by the British driver Oliver Bearman, Ferrari's reserve driver.
These drivers spend many hours in the simulator and sometimes get to drive during practice sessions. Often the same person serves as both simulator and reserve driver. Finally, every person in a Formula One team plays an essential role, from the team principal to the last mechanic. They all share one aim: making their cars the fastest on the track. But having a strong team is not enough. You need a driver who can extract the maximum performance from the car. And a driver needs more than just talent to reach the top category. Now we'll see what it takes to become a Formula One driver. Formula One is every driver's dream, but very few manage to make it. Unlike other sports, where talent can open all the doors for you, in motorsport, money and connections also play a crucial role. The traditional path starts in karting, where drivers learn the basics of driving and competition. All Formula One drivers have gone through this stage. If they succeed, they make the jump to single-seater categories like Formula 4, where they compete with more powerful cars. They begin attracting attention from teams and sponsors. From there, the most talented and best-supported drivers move up to Formula 3 and Formula 2, the categories just before Formula 1. But this is where the path gets more complicated. To compete in Formula 2, a driver needs a budget of at least €2 million per season. And in Formula 3, about €800,000. So it's not enough to be fast, you need the backing of sponsors or the support of a Formula One team. That's why many talented drivers don't make it to the top category, simply because they don't have the resources. An example is Felipe Drugovich, who won Formula 2 in 2022 and was ready to move up, but couldn't find a seat. The only place he could aim for was at Aston Martin, where he's a test driver. But that seat already belonged to Lance Stroll, the son of the team owner. And Stroll, unlike Drugovich, never had to worry about finding a seat thanks to his father's investment. He debuted in Formula 1 at 18 and is still racing today with a team built around him. Talent helps, yes, but money is still a decisive factor. Even if you make it there, that's only the beginning. Because in Formula 1, reaching that point is just the first step. Staying in the category is even harder. Each season, only 20 drivers have the chance to compete, and every mistake can cost them their seat.
There's an awful lot of grip, and that's a hard hit into the Armco barrier there, isn't it?
Front axle wasn't alongside.
Logan Sargent is out. Goodbye, Sargent. Franco Colapinto will race with the Williams team for the rest of the session. Now that we know how drivers make it to Formula 1, let's see how the cars they compete with work. The most advanced and fastest machines in motorsport. And for this, our second guest in the video will help us. But before that, if you want to keep learning about Formula 1 in an easy and quick way, sign up for my newsletter Scuderia Al Cubo at formulaalcubo.com. I send a daily email you can read in under 3 minutes. So you can keep learning about this amazing sport. I'll leave the link for you to sign up in the description and in the pinned comment.
I'm Tomas from Slider Formula 1, here to discuss Formula 1 car mechanics and aerodynamics. They use a 1.6-liter V6 turbo engine with 2 electric motors, a kinetic motor generator unit and a thermal motor generator unit. Something you'll hear mentioned a lot is the energy recovery system, which will change in 2026, but you'll have time to learn about that later. Here's how it works this year. The thermal motor generator recovers exhaust energy and converts it into electricity stored in the batteries. Then when the car accelerates and the turbo needs to be sped up to reduce what's known as turbo lag, this same system starts working as a motor, spinning the turbo artificially. The kinetic motor generator unit converts crankshaft kinetic energy into electricity stored in the batteries. Both components plus the turbo, exhaust, engine, electronic control, and batteries can only be changed a limited number of times per year. That's why teams must avoid overusing them during operation, so they have materials in good condition for the final races. Together they have about 1,000 horsepower and the car weighs 800 kilograms with the driver. You can hit amazing speeds like 0 to 200 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds or up to 360 kilometers per hour on a straight, but their true speed is what makes them fast. They can take 90-degree corners like turn 1 at Baku at about 120 kilometers per hour. Other much wider corners like those at Suzuka or Silverstone are the season's fastest at over 250 kilometers per hour. This is because they generate large amounts of aerodynamic downforce, which is the force created by the air pushing the car down, sticking it to the track so control isn't lost. They do this using the car's floor and wings. Larger wings create more downforce, so they're used on tracks with many corners. On the other hand, bigger wings also create more air resistance as the car moves forward, and that's a problem, especially on the straights of the circuits. Cars try to go fast, but air resistance slows them down and limits their top speed. So the teams have to decide what works best for them, whether to be very fast on the straights or to be faster in the corners. The best car will always be the one that can maximize both aspects. But for this, the teams compete with each other to see who brings the best innovations that allow them to have those characteristics. This must comply with International Automobile Federation regulations, which specify allowed and prohibited actions to ensure rules are followed. For example, Mercedes nearly achieved a flying car in 2020. These rules change every few years. In 2026, both engines and aerodynamics of single-seaters will change. We also have the suspension, affecting both mechanics and aerodynamics, the engine for acceleration and top speed, and the car's brakes. It's hard to compare a Formula 1 car with another type of car since they're usually unrelated. For example, oval cars are very fast on that type of track, but they wouldn't stand a chance on a Formula 1 circuit against a car from this category. Then we have the World Endurance Championship cars, which, although they race for many more hours, are much heavier for this reason and much slower than Formula 1 cars. Lastly, when it comes to materials, we have a bit of everything. The most well-known is probably carbon fiber, because that's what the cars are made of. They're made of carbon fiber because it's lightweight and strong. Thank you.
Slider, thank you for helping us with the technical part, which you clearly master perfectly. Now, after all this, let's discuss a simpler but equally important topic. Our final video guest, Pachu Subiti, will help us with that.
Hello, I'm Pachu Subiti. Everyone seems obsessed with Formula One and acts like they know a lot about it. First, I assure you they don't know much, and then I'll give you a great guide to Formula One rules and regulations. This way, when you watch the race, you'll fully understand everything, including the origins of Formula One. In 1950, the rules have changed a lot. Many of these are to promote safety. Notice that recently, Joe spun out like a fidget spinner and was fine. If you sit down to watch television or a Formula One race until the end, you'll see flags. This is one of the oldest symbols in Formula One and it depends on its color. Here's what's happening on the track. The checkered flag signals the end of practice, qualifying, or a race. It's the one seen in cartoons, cars, and on television. You usually see it waved by a celebrity, or they're attempting to wave it. When a red flag appears, everything stops. Practice, qualifying, or the race, due to a serious accident. Or if weather conditions make it unsafe to continue, the race stops. Watch for the yellow flag. Like a soccer card, it signals a warning. A danger on the track could be, for example, when there's a yellow flag, the cars can't overtake unless the car in front of them is damaged. But what you need to keep in mind is whether there's just one yellow flag or if you see someone waving two. If there are two, the drivers must slow down much more, usually because the danger on the track is greater. An example could be if the entire track is blocked, meaning the whole circuit. And if you thought this was the end of the yellow flags, well, no, we have two more. If the yellow flag says safety car, it means the safety car comes out. The same goes if it says virtual safety car. I won't explain in detail, but remember they must slow down. Green on the traffic light means all is fine, danger is over, and the race resumes normally. With this information, you can understand 80% of the races. There will always be someone who tells you no, that all the flags are very important, but trust me, these are the ones that usually come up. That being said, I'll start my speed run. Of the flags that are left, the blue one is for when there's a very slow driver and another one behind going faster, so the slower one moves aside and there's no accident on the track, especially during qualifying. During practice, it's used when they're coming out of the pits or getting ready to set a lap time and have someone behind them. The yellow flag with red stripes signals a slippery area from water or oil, not just another yellow flag. The black flag with a circle means you must pit because your car is dangerous. The white flag warns of a slow vehicle, like an ambulance. The black and white flag. But the one that's not checkered indicates unsportsmanlike or dangerous behavior. It's not a penalty, but it is a warning. The black flag signals disqualification. If you ignore any flag except the black, yellow with red stripes, green or checkered, you'll be penalized. That appears at the top of the broadcast when they add time, usually during yellow flags for a safety car or virtual safety car. That's for the safety car or virtual safety car. Both are used to slow down during dangerous situations to protect drivers. Let's start with the safety car. Introduced to Formula One in 1973, it enters the track during accidents or hazards. It basically neutralizes the race, forcing all drivers to line up without overtaking, so you'll understand this when you watch. A regular car comes out, very similar to the ones you see on the street, and everyone lines up behind it. And it can be kind of tragic for the strategy. Just imagine that maybe the first driver was gaining a lot of seconds and suddenly the second place driver is right behind them again. And while we're at it, and because when I started watching Formula One I also had this question, I need to let you know that even the safety cars have crashed. The virtual safety car, introduced in 2015, neutralizes the race without deploying a car. Activated by the International Automobile Federation, it makes drivers slow down, not to overtake and to stay in line with a safe distance, without completely stopping the race. Since this is Formula One, we're not leaving without talking about money. Formula One has a budget cap that was implemented in the 1990s. Because the dominance of the bigger teams who had larger budgets was becoming absurd. I mean the ones with multi-million-dollar budgets. They built an incredible car, practically a rocket, and others just had to cope. In 2021, the International Automobile Federation introduced this limit as a way to try to level the playing field, emphasis on try. The initial 2021 budget was set at $145 million. The plan was to reduce it to $140 million in 2022 and $135 million in 2023, but Red Bull already exceeded it by 2022. The infraction was considered minor since they exceeded the cap by under 5%, but still received a $7 million fine. Their wind tunnel time and airflow testing were cut. In 2023, they weren't concerned, since they won the Constructors' Championship. Looking back, this budget cap also failed to put everyone on equal footing, and there are those who are against it, saying that putting a limit on money also limits technological development, which was one of the main things Formula One had. Historically speaking, Formula One, even before it existed as a championship, was the place for brands to go and develop their new technologies. For example, in 1930s Germany, before the Formula One championship existed, and with very lax rules, in the Grand Prix, Germany, along with Mercedes and Auto Union, invested heavily to boost its glory and prestige. They completely dominated the competition. If you enjoy history and sports, be sure to check out my channel.
And now that we know how the flags and the budget cap work, let's move on to some other regulations and penalties. In Formula One, it's not all about being the fastest. There are many rules that drivers and teams must follow, and if they break them, they can receive penalties that affect their race or even their position in the championship. The first rule is about track limits. Each circuit has white lines that mark the boundaries of the track. If a driver puts all four wheels outside those lines, it's considered that they've exceeded track limits. But why is this a problem? Because going outside the limits can give an advantage, since sometimes it allows you to take corners at higher speed. The International Automobile Federation penalizes these maneuvers as follows. In qualifying, if a driver exceeds track limits, their lap time is deleted. On the other hand, in the race there is a margin of 3 warnings. If a driver exceeds the limits more than 3 times, they receive a 5-second penalty. And if the driver keeps breaking the rule after the penalty, they can receive even harsher penalties. The second type of penalty is given for component changes. Each car has a limit on the number of components it can use throughout the season. Some of the key parts with usage limits are engines, turbos, batteries, and gearboxes. If a team uses more components than allowed per car, the driver receives a penalty on the starting grid for Sunday. For example, if a driver changes the engine more times than allowed, he may receive a 10-place grid penalty, or even have to start from the last position.
One of the championship leaders, Charles Leclerc, will start from the last row and is sure to put on a show.
In addition to component changes, there is another infraction that is punished with a penalty during the event: blocking another driver during a qualifying lap.
Gasly almost just swipes into the back of him, and Carlos there.
If a driver hinders another competitor's fast lap, the International Automobile Federation can penalize them with grid positions, usually from 3 to 5 places, depending on the severity of the infraction. Also, there are in-race penalties. During a race, drivers can be penalized for different reasons, such as crashing into another car, gaining a position illegally, ignoring yellow flags, among others. The most common penalties are 5 or 10 seconds. These are added to the total race time or served at the next pit stop. In the drive-through penalty, the driver must go through the pit lane without stopping and loses a lot of time. During a 10-second stop-and-go penalty, the driver enters the pits, stops for 10 seconds without any contact, then resumes the race. Finally, there's the black flag, which, as Pachu mentioned, means immediate disqualification. As mentioned earlier, these regulations are set by the International Automobile Federation, which defines the category's technical, sporting, and financial limits each year. And beyond the penalties, Formula One remains a very dangerous sport. The cars reach speeds of over 350 kilometers per hour, and although safety has evolved over the years, the drivers still risk their lives in every race. Subtitled by J.N. Coyle. And the question arises, how safe is this sport really? But before answering it, let's talk about the aspect that has changed the most throughout the history of the sport. Let me tell you that if you want to keep learning about Formula One in an easy and fast way, sign up for my daily email list at Formula Al Cubo. I'll share the formulaalcubo.com sign-up link in the description and pinned comment. Formula One is a sport of extremely high speed and extremely high risk. Cars can surpass 350 kilometers per hour, and drivers risk their lives in every race. But how dangerous is Formula One really, and what happens if the driver makes a mistake on a turn? In its early days, it was a deadly sport. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, safety was practically non-existent. The circuits had no escape zones, the cars didn't protect the drivers, and the rescue teams took minutes to reach an accident. Tragically, dozens of drivers died on the track.
Motorsport and the world lost a beloved and truly brave athlete when Gilles Villeneuve, fighting to improve his starting position on the grid, crashed into Jochen Masse's March car.
Ayrton Senna died in an accident at the San Marino Grand Prix.
Formula One driver Jules Bianchi died from injuries suffered at the Japanese Grand Prix.
With each tragedy, Formula One learned and adapted. Today, it's safer than ever due to technology, engineering, and strict regulations. One of the most important advances in Formula One safety was the Halo, introduced in 2018. It is a titanium structure over the driver's cockpit to protect their head during an impact. Although meant for safety, it initially faced much criticism.
I don't like having that thing on my car and don't feel comfortable sitting in it.
If it looks shit, it is shit.
But nowadays, it has proven to be the difference between life and death. A clear example was the 2022 British Grand Prix.
As you can see, the car and the Halo do their job very well before the car comes to a complete stop.
The Halo saved Zhou Guanyu's life.
He takes the Silverstone corner, which puts him back in Lewis's path and sends him airborne when his car hits the Mercedes.
Another key device in driver safety is the head and neck support system, which prevents the driver's head from moving abruptly in the event of a crash. This reduces the risk of serious neck injuries. Without this system, a strong impact could cause fatal brain injuries. Currently, single-seaters are designed to absorb impacts and protect the driver. And there are two more parts of the car that fulfill this task. First, there's the survival cell, which is the area where the driver is located, built with ultra-strong carbon fiber, and is practically indestructible. And secondly, there are the crumple zones, which are parts of the car designed to absorb the energy of the impact and prevent it from reaching the driver. The goal is simple: destroy the car, but the driver survives. In addition to the safety features in the cars, modern circuits have advanced safety measures to minimize damage in case of accidents. One example is the Tech Pro barriers, which absorb crash energy and lessen impact force. There are also gravel and asphalt runoff areas that slow cars before they reach the wall. Each detail is made to keep accidents from becoming tragedies. But even though Formula One has evolved and is much safer than before, it will never stop being an extremely dangerous sport. Because at the end of the day, when a driver gets into his car, he knows he's risking his life to achieve glory. In that sense, another major change was the ban on refueling to reduce the likelihood of very serious accidents occurring.
Oh, and fuel? We've never had a fuel explosion before.
So check out this video where I explain the 5 reasons why Formula One banned refueling during pit stops.